right, well, thank you everyone for coming tonight. My name is Christian Mays. I'm chairman of the Warren County Republican Party, and you are at the 2026 Lincoln Reagan dinner. For those of you that aren't aware, this is our biggest fundraiser of the year for the party. This is what helps us be able to elect good candidates to office. That's why you're here, so thank you for your support. Now, one of the things I like to tell everybody, did everybody get one of those gold bags? All right, so I tell everybody has something, whether it's time or treasure. So this is your treasure. It's our little gift to say thank you. If you look inside, there's some chocolate for those of you who love chocolate, and then a commemorative coin to commemorate the night. But more than anything, I just want you to take a look and see what can happen when great people focus on one thing and finally come together. Because that's what we're all doing here tonight. We have people from every background, from every economic status, but everybody is here because they care about one thing, and that's making America great again. Now, if you'll forgive me, everybody should have a program that's seated at their table, and on the back, I have the order of events. There's a slight change. And that's how it goes when you're in politics, by the way. But at this time, I would like to ask Justice Dan Hawkins if he would come up. Justice Hawkins is going to do the Pledge of Allegiance for us.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, everybody. I'm Justice Dan Hawkins. So great to be back here in God's country. And if you can please rise if you're able, place your hand over your heart and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you.
FYI, he's up for re-election, so please vote for this man. He's one of the good ones. Next, I've asked Doug Lehman if he would do the invocation for us.
Wow, what a crowd. It's good to see everybody, like-minded people getting together and coming out and hearing Vivek, Anthony, and if you've never heard Sean's comedy, you guys will crack up. He's something else. But if you would, bow your heads with me now for a word of prayer. Most gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you that we can assemble like this, Lord, in this great country, Lord, with the freedoms that we have and you've provided us, Lord. Now we ask that you just bless each and every one represented here today. Bless the food, bless the hands that prepared it. In your name, amen.
And Kathy Grossman. If everyone would please stand, Kathy is going to lead us in our national anthem.
I'm going to need a lot of help from you all. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say
Thank you, Kathy. And I failed to mention it, but Kathy is also the vice chair of our Warren County Republican Party. So she has many talents besides singing. Thank you, Kathy. So at this time, I would ask our Central Committee Chairman, Pete Mingle, if he would come up.
All right. Will the elected officials please stand as I read off your names? Oh, okay. I don't have the names with you, so just please stand for a round of. I was like, wait a minute. I don't think Anthony Munoz was elected recently here, so. Go ahead and please stand. Let's give the elected officials a round of applause. Thank you. Okay. And if Mehek Cook could please come up. Everyone, a round of applause for Mehek for coming tonight. Thank you.
Hello, Warren County. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Mehek, like what the heck? Use that at home. So I know that many of you have seen me before, whether it's Fox News, Newsmax, or as President Trump's legal or political surrogate. Now I work for the Daily Signal reporting on national security issues. But before all of those job descriptions, I just want to tell you, besides the titles, I'm somebody who really fights for the rule of law, accountability, and fighting for people who really work hard and play by the rules, and they expect our government to do the same. And I'm staring at people today in this room, and I have to give a huge shout out to Christian Mays, the fact that he has built patriots to show up. I can't tell you how many times I get emails from frustrated Republicans, but half the battle in this country is showing up. So you've done that. And we're here today because we all know one thing. Ohio is worth fighting for. Ohio is a place that we can build. And the only way to do that, it's not actually to rely on Washington. It's rooms like this where you show up and you show strength and leadership and stand with a party that continues to unite us. And that really is the Republican Party today. I know that Ohio families are working hard. We're doing our part. Many of us, whether it's raising families, building businesses, we're up against challenges every single day. And it's no mistake that Joe Biden left our economy absolutely abysmal. We talked about 40 years of the highest inflation, and there's not a light switch where President Trump could turn it off, but I know that he's doing the best he can to deliver affordability, but I think that's going to be one of the biggest midterm issues. And I think everybody constantly wonders, we're working harder today. We're fighting for school choice for our children. We want lower taxes, but something's not adding up with government, is it? We're seeing what's happening in Minnesota, California. Now, those are two governors that are fighting hard against any type of accountability. So we work hard, we pay our taxes, which tax day is coming up, April 15th. In case you needed a reminder, I think our Franklin County chairman was filing taxes as he was driving here with his wife. But as we fight hard and we pay the government, we're watching them just abuse our dollars. And I have to say that fraud is rampant. It doesn't matter whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or independent. It is rampant in any state that has a welfare program. They're called handouts. And without proper audits, without thoughtfulness on our tax dollars, we have to start challenging the system. And I'll tell you, it's here in Ohio. Now, what the governor's response was through his administration is it's the cost of doing business. Well, I'm sorry. Fraud is failed leadership. That's never acceptable. I had whistleblowers come to me and tell me here in our state, Physicians were rubber stamping paperwork for home healthcare systems. So predominantly in the Somalian, Nepalese, and Bhutanese community, and I find that insulting. As a legal immigrant who came here, I find it insulting for Americans, and I find it insulting for Ohioans. We have to take our tax dollars seriously. We've reported it to Medicaid, I've reported it to the AG's office, but there's something wrong if we continue to think fraud is the cost of doing business. Let's look at daycares in Ohio. I'm sure you've seen some of the videos of me going and knocking on doors. There are no children in there, guys. We're spending millions of dollars, and there's no accountability, there's no transparency, there's no children. And yes, 80% of them in central Ohio are owned by the Somalian community. They don't speak English. Where are we sending our money? These are the types of questions I want to ask because there are tax dollars, and this is why this moment matters. Vivek Ramaswamy is somebody who doesn't do lip service to government. He is somebody who wants to tear it down and build it back up. So he's not only going to fight for affordability, which is important to us, lowering our taxes. I'm tired of people telling me they're moving to Florida. But he's also going to doge government. He did it on a federal level. He's going to come here and do it for the state of Ohio. That means your tax dollars will be protected. We have to start turning the page on leadership. I'm tired of the same politicians running for office. We need bold leadership, somebody who's willing to fight for you. He's raising his family here. He knows what's at stake. And I know this isn't popular, but I'm going to say it anyway. U.S. World Report and News has us ranked at 38th to 39th, depending on infrastructure, economy, healthcare. That's like middle of the road. We're a Republican state and we're just at status quo. So we have to demand better. And that's where Vivek is going to take us from 38th, which is autopilot, mediocrity in my mind, to number 1. That's fighting for school choice. That's your children. That's fighting DE&I. That's fighting the woke culture, because even though we're a red state, we're not acting like it. We have to start asking questions. We have to start holding people accountable, and we have to start focusing on why we live in Ohio. We want to build that American dream. We want to do better for our children, and that's where the midterms matter the most. We know what's at stake today. Democrats have literally circled Ohio on their maps. They're going to be spending millions of dollars. Remember Sherrod Brown, boys and girls sports, wanted to open up the border? Well, he's coming back, and that means all of his Democrat operatives are going to be infiltrating our state, trying to change the hearts and minds of Ohioans, and this is where we have to do better and stick together. This isn't just about one Republican Party, one dinner, one election. This is a legacy-building moment for Ohio. We have to make sure that Sherrod doesn't get back in office, because we don't need more impeachment hearings, woke culture, and that fraud is just the cost of doing business, because that's what Democrats think today. We have to turn the page on stronger leadership. And when I look at somebody like Vivek, the only way that he gets a lot of this accomplished is to have a strong legislature. I'm proud that Zach Haynes is running for Senate. He is somebody who, look, anybody can read his bio, right? He's a father. He's on the board of trustees at Miami University. He fought DE&I. Anybody can read a bio, but I'll tell you what Zach is for me personally. When I came to Hamilton County, pancake breakfast, he not only welcomed me with open arms, he made sure that I met everybody in the room. He is somebody who deeply cares about Ohio, about the American dream, about fighting for patriotism. And that's why Ohio elections matter so much. Washington is going to continue to fight woke judges, elected officials, and so much more that President Trump has to tackle. But right here at home, the only way we change course from autopilot to serious governance is through Vivek Ramaswamy and electing Zach Haynes. So it's my pleasure to introduce him. Zach.
Bright lights. You know, I'd like to ask all of you a simple question, maybe a controversial one, but it's a Friday. Does anyone here really think we can fix Ohio by recycling the same politicians that helped break it in the first place? Does anybody think that? I don't think so. Because what we need right now in this moment are outsiders, not insiders. We need fighters. We need truth tellers. We need builders. That's why I'm running for the Ohio State Senate. Never held higher office. I'm a father of 2 boys, a husband, and I'm a business owner and CEO. And I'm running because I want to preserve the American dream and make it obtainable for the next generation of Ohioans. And that's also why, as I stand before you, I am so proud to stand with and endorse another political outsider for the governor of Ohio, Vivek Ramaswamy. Vivek is a problem solver. He's a fighter, and he's a truth teller. And some people don't want to hear the truth, especially if they're part of that bureaucracy in Columbus that finds every way possible to justify the existence of their own job or department. We need people who are willing to take on what is actually broken in this state and fix it. We need transformational leaders like Vivek, not managers of the status quo. And as I reflect, and I think I see somebody here in the revolutionary uniform, and I'm a member of the Sons of the American Revolution myself, fellow compatriots, we celebrate 250 years of the birth of this nation. Unbelievable. And to think, we all know about July 4th, 1776, but in April, in the spring of 76, there was a fire already burning. Ideas were exploding across this country. Thomas Paine's common sense was shaking the colonies. Ordinary citizens were becoming revolutionaries. Delegates went from thinking, how do we reconcile British rule, instead asking, how do we build something that's entirely new? America was created not in comfort, not in conformity, but in courage, in conviction. And I take that very seriously, not only as a citizen, but as someone who's seeking to serve you in the state Senate. And the question is not how do we celebrate 250 years of America's birth. We're on social media and we get hit with these ads for commemorative coins and hats and t-shirts. The question in my mind is how do we make sure 250 years from now that our country exists, that America and that Ohio is strong, is free, is prosperous, and is thriving. And our future, is it going to consist of some woke ideology that can't determine the difference between a man and a woman? Or are we going to live in a society that honors God's creation? Are we going to become a society where life is treated as disposable, as inconvenient? Or are we going to live in a world that recognizes that every child has inherent worth, has dignity, and has purpose? Do we want leaders who are going to preside or manage an economic decline? Or do we want folks like Vivek that believe Ohio's best days are ahead of us, that Ohio can be the most competitive and most prosperous state in this country for working families? And I think we need to be honest about where failed leadership has taken us. Higher costs, weaker families, less confidence in our future, and policies that don't reflect the values of this room or the people across Warren County. And I'll tell you who doesn't share our Warren County values. And her name is Amy Acton, somebody I like to refer to as Fauci 2.0. But fortunately, we have a candidate, Vivek Ramaswamy, who loves this country. Somebody that grew up right down the road, somebody that's raising 3 young children right here in Ohio. In business, we call that skin in the game. And not only does he love this state and this country with all of his heart, he's a student of our history, of our founding fathers, of our Constitution. And he understands in 1776, when every nation on earth was ruled under kings and queens and princes and lords and ladies and viziers and sheiks and maharajas and potentates and even a czarina, we alone raised up a nation built on laws that powers the people. Because America was not built by kings, not by queens, not by bureaucracies. It was built on a very radical idea, notion that the rights that we hold dear come from God Almighty. And it's the government's job to protect them, not replace them and not redefine them. That's the foundation we are fighting for. We cannot have Queen Amy Acton as our next governor. And I'm going to ask you a question, Warren County. As we look at our future, are we choosing common sense or chaos? Are we choosing freedom or are we choosing Fauci? Are we choosing liberty or are we choosing lockdowns? Are we choosing George Washington or are we going to go with George Soros? We don't need bureaucrats telling us how to live. And that's why this election matters. Because we're not just choosing a governor, we're choosing a direction. We can go forward or we can go backward. We can choose freedom or control, renewal or decline. And I believe Ohio is ready, not for management, but for transformational change. The kind of change someone with an entrepreneurial background, someone who loves this state, loves this country, like Vivek Ramaswamy, is going to bring in the governor's office. That's why I'm in this fight. That's why I'm running to be your state senator. That's why I'm proud to stand with and welcome a true transformational leader, Vivek Ramaswamy.
Thank you, Zach. Give him another round of applause. I like that. I told Zach up here he's got himself some responsibilities. We're going to take you on the road with us. Mehek, thank you for that introduction as well. I appreciate both of you. It's great to be here in a room of heroes, actually. Anthony Munoz, I was just sitting with you, childhood hero. Give this special guest a round of applause. You're going to hear from him. He knows how to take down an opponent in more ways than one. So we were chatting a little bit about that. And where's Beverly? Is Beverly in this room? We were just chatting before. Oh, there you are, Beverly. Yeah, good to see you. Beverly, you want to stand up? Let's give Beverly a round of applause, our special guest. Mama, my friend. We were just catching up beforehand, recounting. It was probably one of the first times we met. And I said, I don't know if you remember, I'm the second favorite Vivek you're ever going to meet. And she said, who's the first? I said, your grandson. But it was good to see you again, Beverly. And our conversation reminded me of something that Mehek and Zach have already been talking about. It's this quaint idea. We don't even talk about it in politics anymore. And when we do, we talk about it in the past tense. It's this idea of the American dream. This idea that in this country, unlike any other, if you work hard, you play by the rules, you get to have a good life and dream for an even better life for your kids. And Bev, I think there's probably nobody else who embodies that story better than you do. A single mother who grew up in some tough circumstances, raising a young man who's now on his way to Pakistan to negotiate world peace on behalf of the United States of America. That's our Vice President, J.D. Vance. The story of that proud mother who's in this room tonight is actually America's story. I talked to Beverly a few minutes ago. I'll tell you two other people I talked to in the last 24 hours. You heard from Mehek, her story, traveling as an immigrant to this country legally the right way, while uncovering the fraud of many illegal immigrants and actually helping us achieve justice. I talked to John Houston on my car ride here. He says hello to all of you, by the way. He's doing a Lincoln Day dinner in Lorain County, I think. Somebody, an adopted son, born here in Ohio in unextraordinary circumstances, going on to represent this state in the United States Senate as we lead America into the golden age. Someone like Bernie Moreno, who traveled here as a legal immigrant from South America, fighting to put our country first every day in the United States Senate. Someone like me, who was born and raised not far from here. I get in trouble when, sometimes I can get away with coming to Cincinnati and not telling my parents, but if I'm going to be, there's media and stuff here, if they know I'm here and I don't stop by home, I get in big trouble. I stop by my same home in Evendale. They will not move out. They drive the same car they did back when I was in high school. They are creatures of habit, and we saw them in Evendale earlier today. My dad worked at GE off I-75 under the Jack Welch years. They came halfway around the world with nothing to their name. I went to public schools through 8th grade. I met, actually tonight, another Rellis alum. I went to Robert E. Lucas Intermediate School. There you are, my man. We both had Mrs. Kinney when we were there, right? Went to Rellis. Unfortunately, Rellis shut down, but we went to St. X for high school. Ended up founding successful companies. Now, God willing, with your help, in a position to lead that very state where I was born and raised. That is only possible. My story, John Husted's story, Bernie Moreno's story, Beverly's and J.D. Vance's story. That is only possible in the United States of America. And the extraordinary part, thank you. This country, the greatest nation known to the history of mankind, and the extraordinary part of that story, J.D.'s story, Bernie's story, John Husted's story, my story, the extraordinary part of those stories is that they're really not that extraordinary at all in America. This is the country where each of those stories ought to be normal. And the reason I am running to be your next governor is that I want our state of Ohio to be the place in that United States of America that revives that American dream, that is the cradle of a new American dream, that breathes life into the hope and aspirations of what made this country the greatest nation known to the history of humankind on our 250th anniversary. That is why I'm in this. It is not, I'll tell you why. There's many reasons why people go into politics. I'll just give you real straight talk. I'm not in this for more money. We're not going to make millions of dollars by doing this. We're going to spend millions of dollars on this journey. I'm not in this for more fame. I ran for president. I was offered cable news and other TV shows down to the week before I ran for this position. No. I'm in this because I know that together we can lead Ohio to be the top state in the country in every way that matters. The top state in the country to raise a young family, to give your kids a world-class education, to generate and build wealth without apologizing for it, and to be the state that revives our conviction in that American dream, to be the state that Texas and Florida actually look up to, rather than the other way around. And I know we can do it. But there are friends in Texas and Florida, when I tell them this, they're a little skeptical. They'll say, okay, we like you and everything, but don't get carried away. How can Ohio be that state in the United States of America? And I remind them that it was not long ago that Ohio was that state in the United States of America. You see, at the turn of the last century, we were the wealthiest state in the Union. Even in 1950, 6 of the top 15 wealthiest cities in America were right here in Ohio. We led the first industrial revolution. Toledo led in glass production. Akron led in rubber production. Youngstown and Cleveland, where I was earlier this week, led in steel production. Dayton led in computing. Our hometown right here in Cincinnati was known around the world as the Queen City, the city of the pioneers, the consumer products capital of the Western Hemisphere. And also, I was actually with some food producers earlier today, Porkopolis, right here in Cincinnati. And there's a special thing that happens when you're a young person growing up in that state, at the heart of the greatest nation known to the history of humankind. As a young person, you gain the self-confidence to achieve the things that you were taught to believe were impossible. I thought of this the other night. We were watching with my 2 boys, the Artemis II, make a mission to the backside of the moon, something that no man had ever seen, led by the United States of America. That was Ohio. Neil Armstrong, the first man in human history to walk on the moon, born, raised, living in Wapakoneta, Ohio, as he did it. That was John Glenn, born, raised, living in Ohio, when he became the first American to make it into orbit around the Earth. That was Ohio, giving birth to Thomas Edison, one of the great inventors of all of history. The Wright brothers, who took flight born and raised in Dayton, Ohio. That is who we were as a state. And I believe we will be that state again. But that requires electing the right leaders to do it. Today we celebrate, right, this year, that 250th anniversary of the signing of that Declaration of Independence by Thomas Jefferson, who, by the way, happens to be the man who admitted Ohio to the Union in 1803. We here in Ohio in 2026 should remember his words. In the end, the government you elect is the government you deserve. And I believe this year we face the single greatest contrast between two candidates in the history of governors' races in Ohio. We face the most consequential election for governor in the history of our state. On one hand, we have a choice. I will proudly say without apology, a chance to elect the most conservative governor in the history of our state. I believe that is something that is worth conserving. Versus, in my opponent, Amy Acton, without exaggeration, an opportunity to elect the first socialist governor in the history of our state, without exception. We have a chance to elect a governor who actually celebrates success versus a governor who villainizes success daily. We have a chance to elect a governor, and I pledge to do this, to actually grow and expand our economy, versus a governor who already did it once. She shut down our economy. We have a chance to elect a governor who will actually improve our schools, versus a governor who led Ohio to be the first state to shut down our public schools. We have a chance to elect a governor who, I hope I'll lay it out for you, a positive vision for our state, versus a governor who has none at all other than to complain about what someone else did to her. That is the choice we face. Now, the objection I sometimes hear from some of our Democrat friends in the state, and I think it's okay to have Democrat friends, all right? We did growing up. We're going to bring them over. A lot of them are just Republicans. They don't know it yet, all right? We're going to open their eyes and help them see it. They say, well, that was a few years ago. That was a pandemic. What did we know then? I'll tell you this. We're not going to have, God willing, we're not going to have a pandemic again. But someone who has that callous of an attitude towards the economy to say, we'll fire first and aim later. I'll claim, she's on record, that the COVID death rate was 50% when it was less than 1%, to shut down small business owners, to shut down the economic growth of the state, to shut down Cincinnati public schools included for 2 years. By the way, while private schools like my high school, St. X, managed to remain open. Those are the same decisions she'll make, not in the face of a pandemic, but in the face of other forms of pressure and new threats that will come up. So Ohio cannot afford Amy Acton. But that's not the only reason I'm asking you to vote for me, and not only to vote for me, but to get out there and make sure we win for Republicans up and down the ballot. The reason I'm asking you to do that is we have an opportunity to do something far greater. We have an opportunity to set an example for the rest of the United States of America, because this is not any election year. This is the year where we celebrate that 250th anniversary of 1776. This is a year where we remind ourselves as a country who we really are as a people. Who are we? Over the last half decade, over the last couple of decades, frankly, we went through a national identity crisis in this country. We lost our way. Faith in God, patriotism, hard work, family, all but disappeared in so much of our culture. And that's where you saw the rise of one alternative poison after another filling the void: wokeism, transgenderism, climatism. Christian Mays, you were talking about that, the COVID ideology that my opponent pushed on a daily basis in this state. These are new secular religions that substituted for the real thing. There's an old saying, if you stop believing in God, there's a hole the size of God in your heart. Something else will fill that void instead. These are symptoms of a deeper void of purpose and meaning in our country. And the way we're going to defeat the other side in the end isn't just defeating them. We'll do that. But it's to fill that void with the real thing, what is true, what is right, what we know is virtuous. Individual, family, nation, and God beats race, gender, sexuality, and climate if we have the courage to actually stand for it. So what does it mean to be an American? It means we believe in those ideals. It means we believe in the ideals of 1776. It means we believe in merit, that the best person gets the job regardless of their skin color. It means we believe in the rule of law. You said this, right? As a son of legal immigrants, as another legal immigrant you heard of. Well, Bernie Moreno like it. You can come to this country the right way, but if you come through the back door the wrong way or break the law, we will send you back, because this is not a country that tolerates a violation of the rule of law. It means we believe in free speech and open debate without censorship. It means we believe in success. It means that we're courageous, brave, even heroic when called upon to stand for our country in our hour of need. This is what it means to be an American. A citizen of the one nation in human history defined by a set of ideals enshrined in that Declaration of Independence. That is what makes this country different from every other nation on planet Earth. We call it the American dream, after all, for a reason. There's no such thing as a Canadian dream, okay? They had a Canadian dream of winning the gold medal in hockey. It didn't work out. We beat them at that, right? We like them, but, there's no British dream. Okay, it sounds kind of goofy to say it. King George didn't talk about the British dream. George Washington knew about the American dream. There's no Chinese dream. The American dream is what makes American exceptionalism possible. And I feel a certain moral duty. This is why I'm in this. It's not for fame. It's not for fortune. It's not because I don't have anything better to do. I promise you that, because if there's one, you feel a pang of guilt in sort of every risk or every step you take. And if there's one thing that maybe feel the slightest tinge of guilt about in this whole journey, it is the fact that there's nothing I love to do in my life more than to spend time with those three little kids that I have at home. I got a 6-year-old boy, a 3-year-old boy who's going to be 4 pretty soon. They'll wrestle over each other. They're kind of run roughshod over each other, but both of them agree they're not going to do that with their little sister, who's now 8 weeks old. So and she woke up 4 times last night. So if I'm a little sleepy, there's your reason. But if I feel any reluctance about this, it's that I know that there's nothing I love in the world than spending time with those 3 little kids and my wife Apoorva. But the reason I'm doing it is my faith teaches me. We have a moral duty to do our part. When we have been blessed with so much, we have an obligation to pass that on, not just to my kids, but to their generation in this state. I want every kid in this state to be able to achieve even bigger things than Apoorva and I did. She's a throat surgeon at Ohio State. I have built successful businesses, proudly so. You will hear Amy Acton every day. You may not hear her because she's saying it somewhere with like 5 people in the room, but if you were listening to her, you would hear her every day accuse me of being a billionaire. And you know what? It's actually true. I wasn't born a billionaire. I wasn't born a millionaire. I wasn't born an anything-aire. But I have achieved success through hard work, through developing life-saving medicines, through building successful businesses that employed people, through building a company that paired seniors with Medicare plans that are actually the right ones for them, rather than the ones that they were being served up by a broken system. I was able to do those things because of the education and the opportunities that this state gave to me and to my family. And what I want to do is not to penalize success, but create a state where every kid in this state can achieve even bigger things than I did, where every kid in this state can go up and get a high-paying job and then achieve their own dreams, whether that's an education through a 4-year college degree like the one I pursued, or through an education in the trades to be an electrician or a welder or a plumber or a mechanic or a machine operator, where every child is able to make their own use of their unique God-given gifts. That is why I'm in this, and I believe it is my moral duty to use those blessings to pass them and pay them forward. And that is why we will not stop until we get this job done. That is why I'm in this. It is not because there's really not much more to it. I'll be very direct with you. I mean, the truth is, no matter what happens in this election, thanks to the blessings we've received, my family and I, we're going to be fine. But this state will not be fine. And we have a duty, an opportunity to
to use this state to set an example for what the entire one-time Rust Belt can achieve, to bring back a boom of advanced manufacturing, to lead the next industrial revolution, just like we led the last one, to bring the income tax rate down to zero where it belongs, so we bring those high-paying jobs and great businesses back to our state, to bring down the property tax burden, which has gotten insanely high in this state. It is your home, not the government. To be a state where we actually build more homes to bring down the cost of home ownership for those young 30-year-olds who can't afford that first home, where we bring down those electric bills that have gotten insanely high because we produce more energy in this state. That much I know I can do. All right, I'm not going to quite promise you peace in the Middle East. We're going to leave that to Beverly's son, all right? He's doing a good job, hopefully, in Pakistan later. That's tougher stuff, but this much I know. This much I know we can do. But we can only do it if we get it right in November. And our biggest risk this year, it's a midterm year, but every midterm year is tough. This one's no exception. But our biggest risk this year is actually complacency on our own side. If every person who voted for Donald Trump, and we went around this state dragging them out to vote for Donald Trump, for Bernie Moreno, to defeat issue 1, we did it. If every one of those people comes out and votes this year for the same values that made this country great, for the same values that made Ohio great, for the same values that won us the 2024 presidential election, we are going to be on our way up as a state. But that requires every one of you. All right? You all in this room, you're going to show up. I already know you're going to do that. But as I was with Bernie Moreno last night, as he reminded me, he said, you need to get every person to vote 11 times. You vote once and then bring out 10 more people who wouldn't have otherwise showed up. That's your responsibility in this room. And if you all do your part, I promise you, my family and I, we will do ours to make sure that Ohio's best days, and through Ohio, America's best days, are actually ahead of us, because we are not a nation in decline. We are not a state in decline. We are a state, like our country, still in our ascent, on our way up. And if we get this right in 7 months, it's not that much from now, in 7 months, then when we take that oath of office in January of 2027, it will be the beginning of a new dawn in Ohio of a kind that we have not seen in a century and a half. Get ready, and we will set the example for America's path back to greatness. Thank you for coming tonight, guys. We love you. God bless you and your families, and may God bless our United States of America. Thank you, guys. We love you, and we're counting on you. Thank you.
Can we give it up one more time for... There we go. So here shortly they'll be serving dinner, and I wanted to take a few moments to thank all of our sponsors. If you've seen the banners that are up here to my left and my right, we've had some great people step forward to help make this possible. Everybody thinks, oh, great, it's another dinner. We'll pay a little bit of money, sit up there, whatever, but it truly takes a lot of treasure to pull one of these off. And every one of these sponsors up here really stepped up, and I would just want to thank each one of them. So thank you. Now, there's one other sponsor that's not listed up there, and quite frankly, that's my fault. And Angela Stevens, I apologize. I'm going to ask you to stand real quick. I know I've just put you on the spot. So if you look out this back door here, yeah, go ahead. Angela was kind enough to donate a massive photo booth. You can step in there, get your picture taken. It is absolutely phenomenal. It makes it look like you're on a magazine cover, which is GOP Warren County. We'll work on the real version of that. But Angela, thank you for providing that, and thank you for that being out there. And if you did not notice when you came in, everybody saw the check-in on this side of the entrance, but exactly opposite of that was our Lincoln Memorial. So take a moment, go in the photo booth, get your picture taken, swing by DC over there, get a picture in the Lincoln Memorial. It's just one more way to remember exactly why we're here. Because this year, 250 years, a lot of people, the team came together to come up with something that would make this a memorable event, but at the same time, highlight what's truly important. You know, Zach did an outstanding job in his lead-in for Vivek and pointing out exactly what this country is, how we started, and what it meant. And Zach, I couldn't be more proud to vote for you the other day. I actually did that Monday. So that brings me to my next point. If you have not voted, early voting started Tuesday. Early voting started Tuesday. That goes on for the next 3 weeks. And in 3 weeks and 4 days, I believe, from now is actually election day. Someday we'll get rid of election season. Right, Marcel? But for now, we have election season. So with that being said, please get out and vote. Grab your friends, drag them if you have to, but we have got to turn out the vote. Vivek said it. Apathy is what's going to kill this nation. Complacency is what's going to take us down. If we don't exercise our God-given right and we don't drag our friends with us to vote, shame on us. But the Warren County Republican Party is doing everything we can to lead the way, so please get the vote out. can we just get a round of applause for the band real quick, please? So as you know or may not know, a couple years ago, OH1 was stolen from Republicans, especially in Warren County. It was redistricted to a point that Republicans honestly just had no chance. Hamilton County, with the blue that it is, basically outnumbered us. We had a great candidate 2 years ago, and he really swung above his weight class. Orlando Sanza was an amazing candidate, did a great job, but we just couldn't overcome the deficit from Hamilton County. So actually it was a year ago today when I gave my speech at the end of my first 100 days as chairman. I said one of the things we would do is work our tails off to get OH1 redistricted. And we did. So for the first time in quite a few years, we have a legitimate shot in OH1 of having a Republican congressman again. I don't know about you, but when I see that email on Sunday mornings from Greg Landsman, well, it's a good thing I haven't eaten yet. That's all I'm going to say about that. But at this time, I'm going to ask the Warren County endorsed candidate for OH1, Dr. Stephen Urbeck, to come up and say a few words. Please give him a round of applause.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for allowing me to take the time to speak with you tonight. Please continue to eat your dinners. My name is Stephen Urbeck, and I've been to quite a few Lincoln Reagan dinners, but I want to give Chairman Mays and all the volunteers and all the folks here tonight a good round of applause. What a fantastic event. There we go. I can tell you all, tonight is a little different for me, this Lincoln Reagan dinner, as I come to you as a candidate for Congress. And I'm about to speak. Can you guys hear me? Great. I come to you guys tonight as a candidate for Congress in Ohio's 1st District. We have a real chance at flipping this seat. Mic check. There we go. Can you guys hear me? Great. As you guys know, Greg Landsman is the current representative in this seat. You know, many of you know me. I see some patients in the crowd. Of course, it didn't go off out on Vivek, right? So many of you know me. I see quite a few patients in the crowd, and so no tooth questions, but yes, I am a dentist. But I'm not just a dentist. I'm also a husband to my wife, Sydney, a father to our daughter, Georgia, a small business owner in this district, and a doc to 5,000 patients. But like many of you, I'm also a concerned citizen about the direction that our country's heading. Tonight, I'm going to tell you a little bit about where I came from, why I'm running for Congress, and I'm going to ask for your support in this May primary and onwards to beat Greg Landsman. I grew up not far from here on a family farm just north, where we raised pigs for 10 years and took them to the Warren County Fair. I come from there we go, I see a 4-H leader or two in the back there. I come from a long line of dentists where my great-grandfather was the first dentist in Mason in 1926. This year, we celebrate 100 years of small business ownership in Warren County. It's a true blessing, and while dentistry was always in my blood, my passion for politics came later. As a sophomore at Ohio State, I had the chance to work on Capitol Hill, was where I got my political itch. Ultimately, I went on to dental school to follow my family's footsteps, stayed involved in policy, working as the American Dental Association's Legislative Counsel to Washington. Now, I went to New York University, and coming from a farm in Warren County, that was quite the culture shock. I can tell you guys, I can remember it. Let me set the picture for you. 2016, President Trump's elected. Liberals are lighting their hair on fire in New York because the president got elected. And while NYU Dental School was a fantastic institution, I saw firsthand where the undergrad was breeding grounds for socialism, communism, and any radical left-wing ideology. These were not your labor unions and working-class Democrats of the past. These were activists and communists who detest our country and what we stand for. I always knew I was coming home to take over not just a family practice, but also to raise my family in a place that shares my values. I'm a Christian, a proud Christian, and a proud conservative, like many of you all. And it's very clear that our values are under attack these days. Radical left policies are being pushed harder now than ever before, whether it's socialism, identity politics, or just a disregard for the value of life. These crazy ideas will affect our generation, my daughter Georgia's generation, and the future of your children and grandchildren. But I'm not here to whine and complain about it. I'm here to fix it, and that's why I'm running for Congress. Thank you. So I can tell you guys, I've been on the campaign trail for 9 months now, out there relentlessly, trying to make sure that we have a shot at beating Greg Landsman. And I've listened to voters, and I can tell you what I've heard. The concerns that I hear are many of the things that mirror President Trump's reelection in 2024. The president got reelected on the promise to do 3 things. 1, close our southern border. 2, decrease the crime in our great American cities. And 3, deal with the affordability crisis perpetuated by the Biden administration's reckless spending, which caused the inflation. Right now, you have a congressman in Greg Landsman who has called for the abolition of ICE, who puts up illegal immigrants before American citizens, and who demoralizes our law enforcement. You can take one good look at the city of Cincinnati and the crime wave that started. We have a gentleman here, Corey Bowman, who's a good friend of mine. We worked very, very hard out on that trail. And sadly, still crime exists. Many of you saw or were down at the opening day, a huge parade, which sadly turned into chaos and violence. It's policies that are weak on crime that Greg Landsman pushed while he was in City Hall that caused this issue. He was the architect of the defund the police movement in those days. At the same time, he rubber-stamped so many things, reckless spending from the Biden administration that hurt working families and seniors alike. What we really need in Washington to represent Warren County is a businessman, not a career politician. Thank you. We have the resources, we have the grassroots movement, we have the momentum with 40-plus local endorsements, including the Warren County GOP, which we're proud to have earned. We have a real shot at beating Greg Landsman in this race, but we need your help. Thank you. I also have the wonderful pleasure of introducing our special guest, a lady that needs no introduction, the mother of our Vice President, Beverly Vance Akins. Thank you. And this mic does work.
Thank you very much. So most of the times when I speak, I tell my story. I tell about my addiction and my recovery, but I'm going to do something a little different tonight. I wrote a little something, so bear with me. First of all, I want to thank Christian for asking me to come here and speak to you all tonight. And and I'm a little nervous, so bear with me, please. Ladies and gentlemen and distinguished guests, what a joy it is to be here tonight surrounded by such passionate and dedicated individuals. As the proud mother of our Vice President, I stand before you not only as a parent, but also as a fellow advocate for the values that bind us together as Republicans. From a young age, JD showed interest in politics, particularly the presidential and vice presidential debates. I suffered from addiction most of these years, but I would like to think I instilled some of his values of integrity and service. I did get clean and sober January 19, 2015. Thank you. Thank you. As Republicans, We share a commitment to freedom, opportunity, and the belief that every individual has the potential to achieve greatness. We understand that government should empower citizens, not impede them. This philosophy is not just political rhetoric that we must pass on to future generations. It's a way of life that we must pass on to future generations. I am deeply moved by the sense of community I see in this room. It reminds me of the values we hold dear: family, friendship, and neighborly support. Whether it's through volunteering, mentoring, or simply lending a helping hand, our collective efforts make a difference. It's the spirit of togetherness that strengthens our party and our nation. Now, more than ever, we must unite and advocate for the principles we believe in. We have the opportunity to shape our future, to uplift our communities, and to inspire those around us. I encourage each of you to engage in the political process, to speak up for what you believe in, and to support the candidates who align with our values. As I look out at all of you, I see the heart and soul of our great party. Let us move forward together with courage, determination, and a steadfast commitment to our ideals. Together, we can build a brighter future for our children and grandchildren. Thank you for your support, your passion, and your commitment to the shared values. It is an honor to be a part of this incredible journey with you. Thank you so very much.
So, you can go ahead and stand and dance for a second if you like, but our next speaker is coming up, Mr. Donald Trump, aka Sean Farish. He was so popular last year, I called him up and begged him to come, and he said, "Christian, you don't have to beg. I love Warren County, and I'm glad to do it." He actually even endorsed me in my race, so thank you for that. But Sean Farish, get on up here.
Let's hear it for the band, right? Let's do a little YMCA, right? There we go. Come on. Warren County, Ohio, it is so nice. We're going to do this. It is so nice to be back in Warren County, Ohio. Thank you so much for having me again. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I said it last year, and I mean it even more this year. You're all beautiful people. I have to say that. Then I spoke to the fake news outside. They said, they're not beautiful people. I said, you're horrible. You are fake news. Look at that. Did you ever notice that Don Lemon, Jim Acosta, Rosie O'Donnell, and Stephen Colbert, Mark Cuban, they all wear the same glasses. It looks like a submarine porthole. These are very stupid people. Hey, breaking news, by the way, the astronauts of Artemis II just splashed down off the coast of San Diego. All right. I heard Vivek say, they went and they flew around the backside of the moon. Unfortunately, now they don't know their next mission is to fly around the backside of Rosie O'Donnell. Or as I call it, Uranus, right? Think about it. Now, I just thought of that one sitting right at the table. Number 28, otherwise known as the cool kids table. That's the cool kids table right there. Oh my gosh. Give it up for Beverly, our vice president's mom. Come on. How about this one? We haven't done this one yet today. If there are anybody here who's a member of fire, EMS, police, veterans, please raise your hand and please give them a very, very big round of applause. My name's Sean Farish. I'm originally from New York. It's anybody here originally from New York? Usually there's a few. All right. Oh, there we go. She's definitely from New York. You heard that? I met somebody here from Queens tonight. For those of you who don't know Queens, that's where our president is from. That's why our president acts the way he does. For those of you who've never met someone from Queens, you now know what that's like. We're just going to take care of an entire civilization. That sent the whole world crazy, right? They said, sir, please don't say that, sir. They said, we're going to say that because then we're going to get them to the negotiating table. We make beautiful deals. I made great deals, you know. We made a tremendous deal with somebody. You may have heard of her. Her name is Mother Nature. Have you heard of her? She said to me, sir, we're going to send a ton of hurricanes. Lots of hurricanes. We're going to send them. I said, you're not going to do that. And then we renamed the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, and we had no hurricanes in 2025. I said, Mother Nature, if you send hurricanes into the Gulf, we're going to hit you with tariffs, the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. She said, please don't do that, sir. I said, then there won't be any hurricanes, and there were no hurricanes. I also spoke to the Prime Minister of Ireland, you know Ireland, who lives there now. Rosie is in Ireland. And he said to me, laddie, you have to take her back, laddie. You got to take her back, sir. She's causing another potato famine, sir. I said, we're not going to do that. If you send her back, we're going to hit you with tariffs, 5,000% per pound. That's a lot. That's a lot. I come from New York, and I tell this story a lot. So first and foremost, I am an activist first. I don't care about clicks, views. Social media is great. It's useful. A lot of people follow me there. I appreciate each and every one of you who do that. Number one, first and foremost, because listen, Anthony Munoz is here, right? So he's a football player. He played for the Cincinnati Bengals. That's a team that actually won a few times, a time or two. He's a big guy. I have to tell you, he's going to be my bodyguard. We're going to use him. He's one of the greatest offensive linemen in the history of football. Think about it. He didn't let anybody through. He's like our southern border. Didn't let anybody through. And he protected a guy by the name of Norman Julius Esiason. Tremendous guy. I call him Boomer. Great guy. Actually, pretty interesting is growing up, so I'm from New York. I'm a Jets fan. Sympathy warranted. Boomer played for my team. You know the worst part about being a Jets fan isn't the fact that they're awful. It's the fact that when I say that, I immediately have to go, guys, I promise it's not that bad. It's all right, okay? But I'm someone who doesn't get to witness a lot of winning being a Jet fan, right? And so, you know, I get involved in politics. I've always been interested in politics. I studied radio in college. It's what I'm doing now. I have a show on rumble.com/LFA-TV Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. It's a lot of fun. I met somebody today who said they watch me every day and they didn't bring their pearls. I have a new little fake pearl necklace that we clutch because there's a lot of people who just can't stop whining. Which was funny. I told my wife, I said, the pearls are a big hit. The pearls are a big hit. We love the pearls. I get along very well with oysters, and we opened the oyster, the biggest, the most beautiful. I have the biggest pearls the world has ever seen. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. The biggest, they say, sir, nobody's ever seen pearls like that, sir. I say, you don't want to clutch those pearls. That much I can tell you. Hands off, right? I grew up in New York, and I'm used to losing, right? I mean, like, New York sports isn't very good, and our politics is awful up there. So I grew up in New York, and I said, do I want to do sports radio? I kind of wanted to do it, you know, WFAN, Mike and the Mad Dog, the whole thing. But then I said, you know what? It means a lot more to be involved in politics because, like, and by the way, thank God this is the case, but every time Republicans lose, our taxes go up. Every time the Jets lose, I just have a, you know, stomach ache the next day, but nothing else happens, right? The Jets lose a lot, so that would be really bad for us. So I decided it's going to be politics, and I started listening to people like Dan Bongino. He's a great guy. We love Dan. He's a great person. I just had the honor of filling in for him recently, a couple weeks ago, down in Florida. That was the thrill of a lifetime. But I was in New York. We had the COVID lockdowns. This was something else. Governor Andrew Cuomo. I called him Handsy Andy, right? Because he couldn't keep his hands to himself. He got in a lot of trouble for doing that. You're not supposed, I said, Andrew, you're not supposed to do that. He said, I don't care, I'm going to do it. And he told his staffers, you have to wear a mask, but you have to take off everything else. And they said, sir, not supposed to say that. But he said that. He got run out of town. He got run out of town by Kathy Hochul, who I happen to call the bucktooth Botox bandit of Buffalo. She's a horrible person. And she has something called congestion pricing in New York. That's because she doesn't drive to work. She flies to work on a broomstick. That's what she does. The Wicked Witch of the Northeast. She's a horrible person. She's a horrible person. Kathy Hochul. They didn't like me very much in New York because when we had the COVID lockdowns, I was working in a paint store. It was great. Selling paint. People go, how did you learn how to sound like Donald Trump? I was selling cable, DirecTV, for a third-party company, and I would have these folks on Long Island. They would look at me and say, am I going to be able to keep Fox News if I switch? And I knew at that point, I was like, I think this is a friend. So I would look them dead in the eye, and I would say, do I look like or sound like somebody who would ever take that away from you? We're not going to let it happen, and we're going to put the biggest and most beautiful dish on your roof. It's a great dish. It's a dish so big, Chris Christie's going to love eating off of it, right? Look at it. I was on the debate stage with Chris Christie once, and I was holding on for dear life. He was pulling me into his gravitational pull. I said, somebody threw a tomato at him. It's still in orbit today, going around. You know, he's got rings now like Saturn. I get along very well with many people in outer space. You may have heard of him, E.T., extraterrestrial. I call him E.T. He said to me, sir, E.T. phone home, sir. And we made a perfect phone call, and we sent him home. It was the greatest phone call in the history. And they impeached me over it. A phone call with E.T. I said it was a perfect call. Great guy. I also got along very well with, you may have heard of him too, Darth Vader. He had a breathing problem. He said to me, sir, they burned me, sir. Never would have happened if I was your emperor. That much I can tell you. So, New York, I'm working in a paint store, and we have these lockdowns, which was actually okay for me because stay home, save lives, so there was no traffic. For the first time in the history of New York, there was no traffic. But everyone was tired of watching on television the protests, if you want to call them that, riots across the country. You can go out and you can riot, and you can burn down the AutoZone as long as you stick your fist in the air and you say Black Lives Matter. But if you go out and you say, we want to, open a hair salon, they're like, oh, you need to go to jail. That's what happened in New York. So they made up all these bizarre rules to keep you inside. Right. One of my favorite ones was when they started to reopen the bar, Andrew Cuomo said you cannot go to a bar and order alcohol unless you order food. Fine. He then decided that buffalo wings did not count as food. But soup did, in the name of science. So we started to look at this and said, that's kind of ridiculous, right? It's absolutely crazy. And I made a post on a few Facebook groups back in the late summer of 2020 and said, everybody come meet me in a parking lot and bring your cars and have your Trump flags up, and we're just going to do like a caravan with the flags in New York. And I was nobody. I wasn't doing Trump's voice online. I wasn't doing any of that. I was selling paint, the greatest paint. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. I said to my painters, I said, it puts itself on the wall. It's beautiful. You look at it. I mix it with my own two hands. I stick my hand in the bucket. I said, you're going to make the greatest color. I got along very well, by the way, with Michelangelo. You may have heard of him. Sistine Chapel. Beautiful job. We did a beautiful job painting that. I got along well with Picasso. He lost an ear. I told him you shouldn't do that, but he did it anyway. He didn't listen. Didn't work out very well for him. So I make this post. I'm expecting like 20 people. I have no platform. This is the point. I have no platform. 300 people showed up. Whoa, okay. Then people are asking me, when are we going to do this again? It was so much fun. So it was COVID time. Everyone else was saying it, so I said 2 weeks, right? 2 weeks. Speaking of 2 weeks, you know what my favorite thing about COVID was? Buying 96 rolls of toilet paper to make it through 14 days. I said to people, I said, if you're going to buy 96 rolls of toilet paper to get through 15 days, you have a much bigger problem than the China virus. Think about it. You know, in New York, people were buying the toilet paper in the store and then selling it in the parking lot for a premium outside the store. Gotta love capitalism, right? I said, I respect the hustle. I mean, it's not nice, but I respect the hustle. They made a lot of money. Some of them went to jail. Though cashless bail, they're probably out now. But they said, when is the next one? 2 weeks. I didn't know where it was going to be. And then I remembered our lovely governor shut down the movie theaters. They have big parking lots. Let's do that. So 2 weeks later, I have this rally, you know, everyone's meeting in the parking lot. 3,000 people showed up to the second one, okay? And then after that, when's the next one? 2 weeks. And we went into New York City down Fifth Avenue, and we stopped in front of Trump Tower, and Antifa thought we were going to Gracie Mansion, because that's where I said we were going online. But we didn't go there. They went there with frozen cans of tuna fish. They were going to get ready to throw it through our windshield, but they didn't get to see us because they're dummies who fell for a dummy route, which they didn't like. And then came the death threats and all the stuff. And the long story short is, I was selling paint, and I put up the one post or a couple of posts and started this whole thing, and thousands of people came out. And I looked at that and said, this is great. People said, oh my gosh, you know, you're on the news all the time, you're famous. I said, I don't want that, but I do want to win some things, right? Let's win elections. Now, 2020 obviously didn't go our way. But we took that momentum and all those connections that we made face to face in the real world. And anybody here recently what just happened on Long Island, the Gilgo Beach serial killer? You guys familiar with that story? That guy just confessed. He's going to jail. It's over. That district attorney who just prosecuted that case was a district attorney that we got elected on Long Island in 2021. Could you look at that, right? How about it? And not only did we do this with district attorneys, we did this with school board seats, we did this with county executive seats. The current Republican running for governor in the state of New York's name is Bruce Blakeman. He is the county executive of Nassau County, that's the western county of Long Island, made one of his first campaign speeches on the bed of my pickup truck right before Lee Zeldin. We all know Lee Zeldin. So my point in all of this is I'm an activist first. Number one, I want to win. I see a room full of people who also want to win. And I know that every single person in this room knows somebody else who also wants to win. And so it's our job to go out and get those people out. And then they can tell their other friends who want to win, and we can build an army and bring it to the polls, because that is how we win. We can make posts on social media. We can talk about it. We can complain about the things that we don't want. But unless we take the initiative ourselves and build that army and bring it to the polls, well, then we're never actually going to win, and we're just going to be upset all the time. No more apathy. It's time for effort. I want to see that happen, and I think this whole room is going to make that happen, right? I think that's what we're going to do. And when we finish up, I'll tell you how much this means to me. But here's how this all relates to the funny stuff that everyone loves on social media. I'm door knocking for a candidate in Queens, New York. She's not on the ballot. She's currently one of very few New York City council members. Her name is Vicky Palladino. You may see her on Fox sometimes. She's awesome. She's a firecracker. We were getting petitions signed to get her on the ballot. And having fun with some friends and everything. Knocking on doors. I'm doing Trump in the streets. We're going to get Vicky. We love Vicky. Vicky's a great person. Oh, Vicky, you're so fine. You're fantastic, by the way. Tremendous. And my friend goes to me, you got to do that on TikTok. And I said, Jimmy, that's China. We get along well with China, but I don't want to put it on. He goes, no, you have to do it. Do it. Go on TikTok and do it. So I go on TikTok and I start doing these little bits, okay? And remember when they canceled Dr. Seuss? They tried? Dr. Seuss is racist. Oh, no, he's not. I decided to do a little, my own version of green eggs and ham. I will not eat green eggs and ham. I will not eat them Lindsey Graham. I will not eat them in South Carolina or with the virus that came from China. I will not eat them with Mitch McConnell or that horrible person, Rosie O'Donnell. We will not eat green eggs and ham. I started doing that, right? And people, this is great. Then I start doing these other just little bits. I go to drive-thrus. This was fun. I was going to drive-thrus. My friend goes, we're coming back from a late night. We're hitting Taco Bell. I'm not getting anything. I don't feel like having a stomachache the next morning, but he wants to. I ordered his Taco Bell order like Donald Trump. I want to I want the biggest and most beautiful chalupa the world has ever seen. Then I want a quesadilla. I want that quesadilla like nobody's ever seen before. It's a beautiful quesadilla, loaded up with cheese, sour cream. I want it all, and the hottest hot sauce. So we get the order. The guy at the window is like, were you trying to sound like Donald Trump? I said, I was. And I'm going to put this on TikTok, and I want you to comment. Go follow me on TikTok and comment that you took the order. So I posted it in the parking lot on TikTok. He commented he took the order. You want to know something funny? You know what his logo was? The Black Lives Matter fist on TikTok. So I said to my buddy, I said, I think you just ate spit. That guy's not happy with us. So I started doing those. That was fun. I went to Arby's in upstate New York and, bacon, was it a roast beef and brisket sandwich? I want the horsey sauce. They said to me, sir, we don't have it. I said, bare shelves, Biden. Supply chain crisis, what a horrible thing. Build Back Better's not working. Never would have happened if I was your president. And I want a Dr. Pepper because we trust Dr. Pepper more than Dr. Fauci. That much I can tell you. I do that in upstate New York. Thing gets millions of views. People are loving it, going crazy over it. So, but that happened because I was out door knocking with people. He told me to go on TikTok. One of the craziest things about the TikTok experience, and I spoke to some folks earlier, they know where this is going, is I made one video. You know how Donald Trump kind of likes to take credit for some things he maybe didn't do? I love the guy. I do. But would you be surprised if he was like, I got along really well with Tutankhamun, King Tut. We built a big, beautiful Sphinx. It's a cat. We love that cat. It's a crafty cat, a beautiful cat, but I got along well. So I did that, about William Shakespeare. Right? Got along well with William Shakespeare. I called him Bill, tremendous person. Hey, you see, that's what I like about it. Every time, this is why I know this was a special moment, because every time I use the "we called him Bill" line, it's not that funny. But this one person comments on that, "we called him Bill." And I look and I'm like, dang, she's really cute. Followed her on Instagram, did what they call sliding into the DMs, safe, beautiful slut. And now we're married. How about that on TikTok? What? So I say, thank you, China. Not everything on TikTok is bad, huh? There you go. Okay, so now I don't really use that app that much because it is Chinese spyware, but that's okay. We're now well into this, I met her on TikTok. I went down to Florida. When I went down to Florida to meet her, because she's from Florida, I'm from New York. We went to KFC. I did a drive-through KFC. I ordered big, beautiful biscuits, right? I want those big, beautiful biscuits. We also went to Chick-fil-A, and I ordered, because the best part about Chick-fil-A is they're very polite when they take your order. Or at least they used to be. I don't know if DEI hit Chick-fil-A yet, but they used to be very polite. I said, I want a spicy chicken sandwich, spicier than Willie Brown after a night with Kamala Harris. And so the Chick-fil-A guy taking the order goes, that's a spicy chicken sandwich, spicier than Willie Brown after Kamala Harris. Yes! Yes! This went perfectly. We're having a good time, and it's going all over the place, and she's laughing her butt off. And so she wound up moving up north to New York with me for 6 months. We finished up, volunteering for the Zeldin campaign, became very close. And then once that didn't go our way, we decided to move to Tennessee, the great state of Tennessee. So we moved to Tennessee, no state income tax, which hopefully Ohio is next, right? Hopefully. No state income tax. So now we're in Tennessee, and a couple years go by, finally get ourselves in a position where we could buy a home. Bought a home in Rutherford County, Tennessee, moved in, and a month and a half after we moved in, we got swatted. You know what that is? Swatted. Somebody called a SWAT call to our house because they don't like some of the things I say on the internet, which is fine. There's a lot of people who don't like some of the things I say on the internet, but they sent a SWAT team to the house. More on that in a second. But moving in there, some of the neighbors obviously got to know us after that, and then we're comfortable with them. We're very comfortable with them. We had the craziest ice storm in the history of the world. Over the course of the winter, we went out there. We had the biggest flakes, Christie-sized flakes, Jiggly Belly, Pritzker-sized flakes. The JB stands for Jiggly Belly. Nobody knows that. but it stands for Jiggly Belly Pritzker. And he's on what's called Ozempic. And every pound that he lost, Chris Christie has found. I saw him on the news the other day. They had to shoot him from 700 miles away, zoomed out, and he still took up 2/3 of the box. I couldn't believe it. And the size of that, you could land a plane on his chin, okay? Who watched the All-American halftime show at the Super Bowl? Did you guys watch it? Yeah. You know who was the headliner at the other Super Bowl, the real Super Bowl, right? We call him Bad Bunny. I call him a nasty rabbit, right? But he doesn't understand that because he only speaks Spanish, so we call him El Conejo Desagradable. That means nasty rabbit in Spanish. I get along well with a lot of rabbits. Roger Rabbit, you may have heard of him. He got a raw deal. Somebody framed Roger Rabbit. I said, it's a witch hunt, complete and total witch hunt. We're going to get to the bottom of that. I got along well with Bugs Bunny. He said to me, sir, what's up, Doc? You don't have to call me Doc. You could just call me Donald. It's a tremendous thing. I got along well with Little Bunny Foo-Foo. He was picking up all the field mice and bopping them on the head. I said, you have to stop doing that. And he said to me, sir, I don't want to stop doing it. I said, you have to stop doing that or we're going to hit you with tariffs. He said, okay, we're going to stop. And I ended that war. I ended the war between Little Bunny Foo-Foo and the field mice. Could you believe it? And we're very close to ending the war in Iran. You know, we took out the supreme leader. I call him the supreme loser. And pardon me when I say this, but he died like a dog, right? Remember that? That was one of my favorite press conferences, by the way. We killed al-Baghdadi. I was driving my car, and he was, you know, remember when Obama, we had the bin Laden raid, and he was like, justice has been done, this dignified thing. And you get this New Yorker from Queens, just smoked a terrorist, and he says, we died like a dog. I'm driving my car to work. I'm like, what did he just say? It's great. It's great. We also got somebody by the name of El Gato Gordo. You know what that means? The fat cat. Nicolas Maduro, we got him out of Venezuela, and we indicted him for having a stupid mustache. You look at that mustache, it's horrible. Overgrown caterpillar on his face, a terrible person. We're looking very closely at indicting somebody by the name of, I call her Nancy Pelosi, right? Think about it. She can't keep her teeth in her mouth, but she knows when to buy or sell. Isn't that a miracle? She's a spitter. You have to use windshield wipers when you talk to her. I'm kind of dabbling in Nancy Pelosi. This kind of sounds pretty good, right, Nancy? Donald Trump he's a fascist. She says too many words with S's in them. It's not working out well for her. Not working out very well. But we have a lot of fun. But the moral of this story, and as I mentioned, we were swatted, right? That was a big, like a defining moment for us, right? It's not easy when you have cops showing up at your house, guns drawn, pointed at you. That's never happened to me before. And you don't know why that's happening. And so my wife runs into the room. I'm sleeping. I'm passed out. We had just ripped out a chain link fence in the backyard earlier that afternoon. I was taking a 30-minute nap. That's when they decided to show up. She comes running in. Sean, there's cops in the yard with guns. I set up, okay, we're being swatted. She don't know what that means. I explained to her, we're going to sit down, we're going to wait for instruction. We're not going to make any sudden movements because that could end very badly. I get a call on my phone, and it's our sheriff's office. And they said to me, we received the call at 911. We received the call that you killed your parents. And we received the call that you're prepared to commit suicide by cop. This is what they told me that they got. That's why they showed up. I said, well, none of that is true. And I'm willing to, do whatever you need me to do to demonstrate that none of that is true. Well, a few months after that, about 8 months after that, we met a gentleman at a local political event who introduced himself to us after I did something very similar to this and told us that he's running for sheriff. And I grabbed my wife. I said, this gentleman's running for sheriff. We told him who we were. He remembered that whole thing because that never happened in the county before like that. And I was a member of his team who sniffed it out, said, this kind of seemed suspicious. Somebody calling, reporting gunshots, but none of your neighbors did. Oh, is that why I got a call from the sheriff's office instead of pounds on the door? He said, yeah, that's what happened. When we found out that this man has a member of his team like that with him, started to say we should probably get to know this guy. We got to know him over the course of a couple months, and this is where I want to lead and end up and end off with. We've been going out almost every single weekend door knocking for this man to get him to become the next sheriff of Rutherford County. And I get a lot of people online when I post videos about us doing that. We're doing, because I want to set an example for people. This is what we've got to do. Many hands make light work. And they say, Sean, you have so many followers. This is great. And sometimes we do knock on the door, sometimes the Ring doorbell. It's your favorite president. You might want to come outside. Your favorite president wants you to vote for sheriff. We have to there's a new sheriff in town. He's a tremendous guy, by the way, tremendous person. We have some fun. We have fun. But they say, why are you doing that? Why don't more people do that? I don't know the answer why more people don't do that. The reason why we're doing that, obviously, A, what happened to us last March, but B, I want to win. And elections are won on doorsteps. Elections are won in the streets. Elections are won in the real world. I love social media. It has been a blessing to be able to have a following, to be able to use it to start a podcast and get opportunities to fill in on radio. That is my dream. That is the American dream. We love the American dream. Vivek said it. There's no such thing as the Canadian dream. Except they all dream to be our 51st state. We kicked them square in the cojones, which are very small, by the way, Canada. And we beat them in hockey like nobody's ever seen. And the Prime Minister of Canada called me, and she said, and they say to me, sir, she's not a she. No, she's a she. Mark Carney is actually a she. A lot of people don't know that, but she's a she. I said, you know what happened to your team? Your French came out too soon, and that's why you lost. And we won. Nobody's ever seen before. We played hockey like nobody's ever seen. We scored the goal. Connor Hellebuck was secure like our southern border. Jack Hughes, he lost teeth, but he scored the goal. We won like nobody's ever seen. And it only happened because I was your president. And Canada knew if they won, we were going to hit them with tariffs again. But what I want to leave off with is, elections are won in the trenches. Elections are lost when we get complacent. I've heard this a few times. For the last 6 years of my life, whether it was New York, flipping school board seats, county level seats, state level seats, congressional seats, not because we said, go do this, go do library board. I didn't even know there was such a thing as a library board until somebody told me about it. But we got out. Weekends, afternoons, evenings, we organized with one another. There's hundreds of people in this room right now, and we could all do the exact same thing. So my challenge to everyone here and to the folks who are on the periphery, right? The friends you're going to tell about this night, great night that we had. Word of mouth, get people out. Just if you do it once a week, think of this, once a week, 20 people. That's 10 teams of 2 knockers each. You guys can do 100 to 150 doors in about 5 or 6 hours, and you do that once a week. That's 4,000 doors that team can hit every single month. You won't lose. I promise you, you will not lose. But it takes that type of effort. It takes that type of hard work. So I like to be the type of person who practices what I preach. Next weekend, we're going to be doing that. The weekend after that, we're going to be doing that. We're going to be going door to door. We're going to be helping our man try to win for sheriff. And then we're going to do it all over again for mayor. We're going to do it all over again for Congress. And we're going to continue to do that for school board, for all these seats. We're going to continue to do that, A, because I love it, but B, because that's how elections are won. And nothing else matters to me, first and foremost, besides winning. So I challenge everybody to be a part of the winning equation. Get out there and do. I love you guys. I'm so happy to be back in Warren County, Ohio. Thank you. God bless you. God bless America. And thank you for your attention to this matter. God bless you.
President Trump never disappoints, does he? So it brings you to the moment that you all been waiting for. Quite honestly, I'm living a childhood dream at this moment. The man that's getting ready to come up here and speak to all of you is somebody that I met for the first time when I believe I was about 10 years old, and I was telling him the story earlier. But I'm a child of the 80s when the Bengals, well, I remember watching the Super Bowl that year. A couple Super Bowls then, but Anthony Munoz, not only is he a giant among men, he's been a giant to me since, like I said, I was a kid. And a lot of people, when I shake hands, they look at my hands and they're like, holy, you got huge hands. Well, I went to shake Anthony's and I felt like a little schoolboy again. So I'm just telling you. But without any further ado, it's my honor and privilege to introduce NFL Hall of Famer, Anthony Munoz.
Thank you. Thank you, Christian. Good evening. What I usually do is I thank either the group or the individual that invites me to come be part of the program. Christian, I was going to thank you, but really, after Sean, I come up at, my belly's hurting so much from laughing. That's a lot of belly to move while I'm laughing. But no, Christian, thank you very much for this opportunity, for just sharing a few words. First of all, I want to introduce, in 12 days, my best friend and I will be able to celebrate 48 years of marriage. My wife, Dee Dee, right here. You know, you have me up here, you're probably thinking we've had Mahek, we've had Zach, we've had Vivek, we've had Sean, we've had the Dr. Urbeck. You got a football player, former football player. What's going on here? I can tell you that as a former football player, as a husband, as a father, as a grandfather, and a grateful resident of Warren County and of Mason, Ohio, I am one that cares about what's going on, not only in our neighborhood, but in our country. And that's why I've taken the time to be here. I might not be as well versed in politics as a lot of the speakers, but I'll tell you one thing. I know what it means to fight for something, and I know what it means to never give up. And that's what we have to do in today's world. We have to fight for what we believe in, for the truth. I'm fighting now, not only for my wife and I, but for our kids and our grandkids. We have our 11th grandkid on the way. And I'll briefly share a little bit about my history, how I learned to fight for what I believe in and how to never give up. We heard Beverly. My mom raised 5 kids by herself, working 2-3 jobs in Southern California. Never knew my dad. My dad was a heroin addict, in and out of prison, and he passed away at a halfway house that I indirectly heard about. So mom was mom, dad, coach, and all 5 kids knew that she was the boss. So I can say that I learned these valuable lessons from what she taught us at home. She taught us work ethic. She taught us responsibility. And it wasn't like she sat us at a table and said, okay, kids, this is what work ethic is all about. All we had to do was watch her get up at 7 in the morning, walk across the railroad tracks, and go to the chicken farm and pack eggs. And all we had to do was watch her iron clothes because we would bring pillowcases full of clothes for her to iron for our teachers. We didn't have a car. Never had a car growing up. And then she would clean house for the couple that owned the chicken ranch. That's how she made money to provide for us. Valuable lessons. Humility. I'll never forget, I have an older brother. He's 8 years older than me, and baseball was my sport. That's where I was talented as a kid. And I'll never forget, he taught me how to catch a short hop with my glove, because if I didn't catch with my glove, I was going to catch with my chest. And little did I know when he said, when I was 6, 7 years old, he said, Anthony, don't ever talk about how good you are. If you're good enough, people will talk about you. Humility. Those are the valuable lessons I learned growing up in a single-parent home. So never forget where you come from. And I'll never forget where I've come from, because that is what allowed me to build that foundation on how to fight for what I want and never give up. The second thing, don't ever forget the things you go through. They might be good, they might be bad. Even though I grew up the way we did, we didn't have a whole lot financially, materially. We had support, we had love. My mom was at every one of our sporting events. She supported us. So I'll never forget of what I went through as a kid, what I went through as a high school student with school and being a 3-sport athlete. Football, basketball, and baseball, because that gave me an opportunity to continue to fight and get out of my environment, to hopefully do something good for my mom. You see, so high school was great for me. I loved high school. Successful high school career, 4 years. Like I said, football, basketball, and baseball, all state in baseball and football. And if I could have jumped and shot, I would have been even better in basketball. You see, so I'll never forget what I went through. That great time in high school, but also we go through some adversity. You see, when I was coming out of high school back in 1976, USC, anybody heard of USC, small school on the West Coast? I was coming out of high school and USC was winning Rose Bowls, winning national championships, Heisman Trophy winners, All-Americans. They had #1 draft picks in the NFL, and someone that committed to go to USC, I wanted to have some of that. I wanted to be one of those guys, hopefully, after my 4 years at USC. But plans did not go according to my plans. And that's why you can't forget the good things you go through, and you can't forget the adversity, because they help you become the person that you're going to be. With all those things I mentioned about playing in Rose Bowls and national championships, freshman year at USC, I'm playing quite a bit, 9 games in the season. I go down with my first knee operation. First time I'd ever been hurt. Second year, I start, play the entire season. Junior year, 7 games again into the season, I go down with my second knee operation. Rehab, go back into my senior year. Not 9 games into the season, not 7, but the first game, or the second time we had the football in the first quarter, I go down with my third knee operation in 4 years. How was I going to handle that? Was I going to fight for something? I wanted to continue to play after that. A lot of people had written me off. But I was determined not to give up. You see, my freshman year, we played in the Rose Bowl. One of the things I mentioned I wanted to play in, I didn't play in that. I actually missed the UCLA, Notre Dame, and Rose Bowl. Sophomore year, I was healthy the whole year. We played in the Houston Bluebonnet Bowl. Really? It no longer exists. There's 100 bowls, and the Houston Bluebonnet Bowl does not exist. My junior year, I get hurt, as I mentioned. I missed the UCLA, Notre Dame, and Rose Bowl. So I'm thinking, okay, but I did have a chance. 7 games that I started that year before I got hurt, I blocked on a national championship team, and our running back, Charles White, won the Heisman that year. So I had a chance to be involved 7 games. So we win the national championship that year, and I go into my senior year, my last hurrah. And as I mentioned, not 7 games, not 9 games in the season, but the second time we had the football. I'm laying on the turf in Lubbock, Texas, and I knew exactly what had to happen when we flew back to LA. Third knee operation in 4 years. Not only was I going to miss the UCLA Notre Dame game, but I was going to miss the entire season. But I was determined to fight for something that I wanted to do, and that was to play in at least one Rose Bowl. And I knew we would get to our third Rose Bowl. And sure enough, we won the conference. We're going to our third Rose Bowl. Now it's time to fight for something I wanted to do and not give up. I knew I was healthy enough. I rehabilitated the whole year. Now it's time to go in and fight to get a chance to play in that game because I knew I was healthy. And I had to go in and convince my head coach that I was ready. He was concerned. I missed the entire year. But I was ready to move on. If it meant just playing in the Rose Bowl and that was it, no more football in my career, at least I could say I played in a Rose Bowl with my guys. So after fighting a half an hour, he let me to go out and practice and win the starting job back. You see, my freshman year, we beat, and I'm sure there's a lot of you that don't call the school by its name. We beat the team up north. The second Rose Bowl, we beat, for the second time, the team up north. I know you all appreciate me saying that. So my third year, when I fought to get back on the field after missing the entire season, we're going to our third Rose Bowl in 4 years. And that's what I love about and commend all you that are running for office and that are elected officials, as I encourage you to get out there and fight and never give up because of what's at stake. And all of us that aren't elected officials or in office, that we continue to fight and support and pray for those that are in office. But I had a chance to play in that last game as I fought to go out and I earned that starting job back. We're ranked number 3. The team we're playing is ranked number 1. And we drove 85 yards the last time we had the football as we score to win the game, and I played the entire game. And we beat a team not way up north, but about an hour and a half up north. Again, I won't. And you all know who I'm talking about. The Ohio State Buckeyes were number 1, we were 3, and we beat them in the Rose Bowl. Then again, people said, what a great way to finish your career. I learned valuable lessons. We all have a story. We all can share our story on what allows us to do what we do and what motivates us to fight for what we want, what motivates us to never give up. And those lessons I learned at home: work ethic, responsibility, humility, gratefulness, and never give up. I said, where you come from, what you go through, and never give up, and always be thankful to those that allow you to get to where your dream takes you to. And I'll always remember the medical staff, the training staff, my teammates, my wife. We'd been married 2.5 years in college, so she supported me. I'll never forget those that supported me, that encouraged me, that gave me the resources to rehabilitate. And when a lot of people were saying you'll never play past that Rose Bowl, all it took was one team to draft me. Just about every team failed me in my physical because of, back then, for you doctors out here, as you know, back in the 70s and 80s, it looks like someone took a knife and cut my knees open. They're big old scars. A lot of teams weren't going to touch me. But the team with the third pick, think about it, the third pick in the entire draft decides to take a chance and draft me, and Dee Dee and I come to Cincinnati, Ohio as the third pick in the entire draft after missing the entire season. Because we believe, thank you. And I'll never forget those that helped me during my 13 year in the NFL. Those 13 years that I'll never forget. 11 Pro Bowls and all the opportunities I had with my teammates and other guys from other teams. So as I wrap this up, and I've talked about, don't forget where you come from. Don't forget what you've gone through, and especially don't forget those that have helped you. one thing that I chuckle at is I hear that this gentleman or this lady are self-made. They have accomplished everything that they've done because they're self-made. I just chuckle. Because you know what happens? When this self-made person gets an accolade, and all of a sudden they come up to the podium, a room full of people like this, to accept this accolade, I would think that they would get up there with no notes, no paper, and just say, I thank myself, great job I did, great. But what do? 3 pages, they thank people that helped them. I thought they were self-made. They utilize the resources, and that's what I'm thankful for. That I can be here, and that I can encourage our elected officials to go out and fight for what's right and never give up. You know, there's been a lot of things that have been mentioned tonight. Someone mentioned the trenches. You got to be in the trenches. You got to get your hands dirty. From someone that over 20 years had my hand on the ground getting dirty, I can relate to being in the trenches and never giving up. When you get guys like Boomer Esiason behind you, Kenny Anderson before him, Ickey Woods, James Brooks. But also being confident in what you do, not arrogant. Being confident in the gifts that God has given you. Not becoming complacent, indifferent, arrogant. But knowing when you accomplish something, you have to turn up the volume on preparation and intensity even higher to continue to be the best. You know, I talk about basically 3 pillars in my life. Not forgetting where you come from, not forgetting what you've gone through, not forgetting those that have helped you. But I have to finish by saying, those 3 pillars cannot stand alone without a foundation. Without a foundation that I built and continue to build that started 48 years ago this coming October. And that's a foundation that I know is built on a rock. And his name is Jesus. So the fact that I didn't play but 1 full season, was the 3rd pick in the draft, and I'm now a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. When God has a plan for your life, nobody, no man, can disrupt that plan. And my wife and I, if it isn't every day, it's almost every day, as we get up in the morning and pray together, we are very grateful, not only for Jesus, as we just celebrated Easter, his death, and most importantly, his resurrection that gives us life. We are thankful because I've just shared with you where I came from. And if you think about that, and you think about now being here and able to share my story with all of you, potential governor here, hopefully the next governor, senators, elected officials, I am grateful and I'm humbled. And you better believe in whatever I do, if it's still, continue another 48 years in our marriage, being a father, a grandfather, I will continue to fight and never give up. I'll end with this quote. The great Vince Lombardi, Green Bay Packers head coach, has a book of quotes. One of my favorite says, perfection is unattainable. I know of only one person that was perfect, and he was crucified, but he's alive. Perfection is unattainable, but if you chase perfection, you will catch excellence. So I encourage you, elected officials, those in office, continue. And we heard earlier, we don't want to be a mediocre state. We want to be an excellent state. Pursue perfection and you'll catch excellence. We've been here long. We had an opportunity to go back a week after my last game to Southern California to take a job, and both my wife and I said, thank you, but no thank you. We want to stay in Cincinnati, Ohio. We want to stay in the state of Ohio because we love this place. So thank you, elected officials, for fighting for your constituents, for this community, for this state, for this country. And I know one thing we'll continue to do, as we always do, we continue to pray for President Trump, his cabinet, our leaders, Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel, and we pray for world peace. And we continue to pray for our elected officials. Thank you. God bless you. And Christian, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Anthony. He was speaking just a moment ago, and a song that we sang in church kept popping into my head. And I thank you for acknowledging our Savior. Because at the end of the day, Jesus should be the center of everything we do. Lord knows if we all shared our testimonies and what He's brought us through, I can't imagine there'd be a dry eye in the house. But He loved us enough to pay the price that none of us could. I want to wrap up the night with a couple things. One, thank you to each of you for supporting the Warren County Republican Party. Thank you for our speakers. You were all excellent. Please. We have a primary coming up, as I mentioned, in a couple weeks. Early voting's already started. And if I don't mention this, I'll get kicked in the pants later, so please forgive me. But I'm also running for re-election for State Central Committee. And I would be honored to receive your vote. You know, May 5th, most people don't understand even what it is, but when people talk about the party, they're really talking about the Central Committee and then the Executive Committee that's added as a result. May 5th, we have an opportunity to rebuild the party the way it was meant to be, the light on the hill in Warren County. We took over about a year and a half ago, and you guys heard this exactly a year ago. We were broke. We couldn't hardly support our candidates. Everything was in chaos, and we inherited pretty much an empty vessel. But thanks to everybody in this room, I can tell you right now, the party is in a better position than it's ever been. We can support our officials, and I will not call anyone an elected leader, because I believe we're all called to serve. Just putting that out there. But our elected officials, for each and every one of you that have been willing to stand up and put your name out there and take the hits, take the arrows, and don't quit. Keep fighting. You know, Trump, after he took the bullet to the ear, put his fist up, fight, fight, fight. That's what each and every one of you need to do. That's what we're all called to do. We are so much more than where we started. We actually have a party that gets candidates won. We won 75% of our races this last November in a time when most of the state lost to Democrats. Butler County lost to Democrats. Hamilton County, well, it's completely blue. Warren County decided to stand up and flip school boards, work in municipalities. It starts with our children. So school boards were the logical choice. Get rid of the woke, get rid of the DEI. Have people that are actually held accountable. We're doing that. We're standing, we're making a difference. We got OH1. We have a great shot, and we have a great candidate. We have Zach Haynes. He's going to be a great senator, and more importantly, he is going to be a senator that supports our next governor, Vivek Ramaswamy. Our job on the Central Committee and the Warren County Republican Party is to get good Republicans elected. We've got a few of you in the room tonight. Judge Kirby, would you raise your hand? You're up for election? All right, so Judge Kirby won. Tom Grossman running for commissioner. These are the kinds of people that move the needle forward. You don't lose if you don't quit. And we will not quit. And if you caught the theme tonight, we will not quit. We will fight. I want to end with this. Together, we can't lose. A threefold cord is not easily broken. That's scripture. And if you understand what that means, the strength that comes from that. We talked about your time. We talked about your treasure. And I'm going to throw out there, fight and get people out to vote. For our party, that is our threefold. Put your time in. Get in the trenches. Work. If you can donate, please donate, because quite frankly, elections are not cheap. Mailers are not cheap. And we have a whole slate of candidates that need all the help they can possibly get. But that's our job as Republicans, as the party, to get good Republicans elected. That's my job on State Central Committee, is to help get good Republicans elected. So fight, help us, join us, continue to support. We've got a great website. You know, one of the things we talked about, we started the social media committee a year ago. We had maybe 1,800 followers on Facebook, and we've more than doubled that at this point. People are paying attention. People want to know what's going on. Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, all of it. It's out there. We have a website. It makes it pretty easy. But get involved, get educated, find out what's going on, and support your candidates. And above all else, keep the main thing the main thing. Keep him at the center. That's the song that kept playing in my head while Anthony was talking and giving his testimony. Jesus at the center. So I'm going to ask everyone now, I'm just going to dismiss us in prayer. And I'm going to ask you all to bow your heads. And let us just focus for a moment on what this time truly is. If you're Orthodox, today is Good Friday. Everybody else celebrated that last week, and we just celebrated the resurrection, the victory for the price that none of us could pay. Heavenly Father, Lord, we love you tonight. We are humbled by what you have done for us. You paid a price that we could never touch. We couldn't hope to achieve, but you loved us enough to make a way to place your Son on that cross for our sin. The sinless one, the Son of God. You sacrificed him to save us, and for that we are grateful. Father, I ask you to touch every man and woman in the sound of my voice tonight. Bless them and anoint them for your service. Let everything we say or do bring you glory. And let us, when we open our mouths, when we hit that keyboard, when we have those thoughts, let us remember you. Keep us, protect us, and strengthen us for your service, Lord. I ask you to bless the men and women here, protect them as they go home. I ask you to bless our candidates for office. Lord, I ask you to use them for your purpose, because we know you won't bless everything we do, but we know you'll bless everything you've called us to do. And we thank you for that, Lord. And Father, as we go from this place, let us keep you the center, and let everything we say or do bring you glory. We ask you this in the name above all names. In the name of Jesus, amen. Thank you, everyone.